Hi, I'm just going to show you something I'm watching directly on the screen.
Where Hong Kong is allowed to operate with a certain amount of freedom. Its internet isn't censored behind the great firewall, which heavily censors the internet in China. Books are not banned here the way they are in mainland China. The press is much more free here to criticize the authorities, and as we can see, the demonstrators come out here.
Okay, what you saw there was an ongoing CNN broadcast on the situation in Hong Kong. I'm going to turn it down a little, but I want to follow developments as I'm making this video. Things are really heating up there. And this is a fast moving situation. I'm just watching the screen as I'm making this video. This is a fast moving situation, so I don't want to talk too much. But I think this is a very critical moment, both for the Chinese Communist Party and for Hong Kong. Potentially, actually, China as a whole. So it seems, what my understanding of the situation is, this student-led movement. It's led by a young man called Joshua Wong. He's only 17. These are huge protests. I've seen some figures as high as 400,000. Anyway, people were angry with the idea that in 2017, with Hong Kong's legislative elections, Beijing is going to handpick the candidates. And they're saying this is betraying the idea of, I'm just taking pictures from the screen, they say this is betraying the idea of Hong Kong's autonomy and the freedoms of Hong Kong. So these students are very angry with what they see as the CCP trying to encroach on their relative freedom. The implications of this are pretty serious, because back in 1997, when the Sino-British Declaration, actually the Sino-British Declaration was earlier, I should say the handover. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because this really is a fast moving situation. I'll show you the screen right now. This is live footage right now. I'll try and get the image quality as best as I can. I've pulled the curtains, so now I've looked at other channels. CCTV is not covering this, although the CNN reporter said that unusually mainland television is not censoring this. Although this is CCTV right now. They're talking about some money segment, so I don't know if they're going to report it or not, but certainly the impression I get is there's a different style of reporting. The mainland state TV is sort of promoting it as these protests are disrupting the economy of Hong Kong, which they may well be, but clearly there's different angles being taken. And that looks like a huge crowd from what I can see on the TV. What the reporter has just said, I don't know if it's Ben Wiedemann or someone else. No, it's a younger guy, but anyway. I don't usually make a video like this, but I wanted to record it as this is ongoing. Sorry for the lack of organisation here. Anyway, yeah, so in the 1997 handover, one of the agreements that the British and Chinese had, as did the representatives of Hong Kong, was that the mainland would respect Hong Kong's autonomy. That was always the caveat to the handover, that the freedoms and the autonomy of the people of Hong Kong would be respected, and there would be full democratic elections in 2017. Now, if the CCP are going to handpick candidates, that's a sham. That's not democratic at all. It's just a phony election. So already 3 years earlier, there's clearly a lot of people very angry. I will say a few things based on what I've seen so far. I don't think everything the students are doing is pragmatic. I think, for example, invading the government building was a bit stupid, and I'll say from the outset, I am a staunch Democrat and a staunch believer in democracy, and I'm very, very critical of the Chinese Communist Party. Having said that, I don't see the point of inflaming the situation by, for example, occupying government building. So these students do need to be responsible as well. Joshua Wong is a young man, but he's sort of fronted a very big movement. So now that they've released him, which has just been reported, he should take some responsibility as well and say, okay, the protests can continue, or at least if they're going to continue, there shouldn't be any sort of escalation from their side. That should apply to the other leaders as well. So far, the Hong Kong I saw an interesting interview. One girl just said that this is Tiananmen Square happening all over again. Massacre, she used. Now, no one's been killed so far. I haven't seen anybody seriously injured. But there has been tear gas used, and it is clearly a very tense situation. As he's reporting right now, I'll try and show you the image. You can see there's a lot of people still crowded around. Now this is Hong Kong time. It's already 3:30 in the UK, so this must be, 2:50 in the UK. So this must be quite late in Hong Kong. This could be a potentially very volatile situation. I really hope these young students take some responsibility and don't. I think, by the way, they've every right to be angry, and they're incredibly brave. But it doesn't, there's a sign there saying, apologies, this is a very fast moving situation, but the sign is saying, we use force, do not charge. So clearly the authorities are making a warning, although so far their response has been a lot more moderate than what would happen in the mainland. As I said the other night, the students had gathered outside an official's house. That would be unthinkable in mainland China. And in mainland China it would be inconceivable for a crowd this big to gather in protest against the government. They just simply wouldn't tolerate it. But because it's Hong Kong, they know they need to tread very, very carefully because the world is watching. The Chinese Communist Party is not known for tolerating dissent, so I'm a little concerned at some point this may really escalate. The students are wearing gas masks, they're still sort of looking at developments. From what I gather, the local Hong Kong legislators have offered negotiations with the students. So Joshua Wong should show some responsibility and take that up, speak to them, as should the other student leaders. Because if they just, civil disobedience when you're taking on totalitarianism, I believe is morally justified, but that shouldn't transcend into violence. Although so far I haven't seen any major violence from either side. Like I say, it's a tense situation. What I've seen from the students is them using umbrellas to protect themselves from the pepper spray, and in some cases surging forward. Although they don't have any weapons or anything like that. I haven't seen anyone throwing rocks, I haven't seen any petrol bombs, nothing like that to suggest serious violence. The authorities are making it clear they will use force. Now, what I would say is if the CCP reacts the way they did in 1989 in Beijing, this time the world would really not forgive them. I know there's a lot of mainlanders sort of look at this and say, oh, what are these Hong Kong people complaining about? But the point is, they've grown up in a totalitarian one-party state. They don't understand, or maybe they can't understand as a first-hand context, just how much these people value democracy. Democracy doesn't exist in mainland China. I know people have tried to claim that it does. It doesn't. Because that sort of communist democracy is an oxymoron. You cannot have a single party state and call that democracy. You just can't. Democracy is about choice, about being able to choose your destiny. And that's what these people are demanding. It's a huge crowd, and I think the situation is going to develop rapidly. It's late there, but I don't see it toning down. So that's it really. I'll leave it there, but what I would say is both sides have responsibility not to escalate things. If the authorities are offering negotiations with students, they should take that, but they should not use it as a way to trick them into just being arrested or something like that, because the anger here, in my view, is legitimate. The CCP has betrayed their promises. They said they would respect the autonomy of Hong Kong, and blatantly what they're trying to do is get more control on Hong Kong. So it's really a tense situation. This is very I don't want to close the video just yet in case anything happens, which I can talk about. I may, like I've done with Ukraine, I may make a series of videos on the subject to give updates on the situation. This is a real test, I think, both for Hong Kong and for the mainland. Like I said, a lot of people in the mainland, certainly people I know, might say, oh, what are the Hong Kongers complaining about? Because the thing about people in the mainland, with all due respect, they equate democracy with unrest. So because these students are protesting, probably state media is distorting that into saying, oh, look at what democracy causes. But it's actually their control that has caused this. It's their controlling behaviour that has caused this resentment and anger. As far as I'm concerned, the Communist Party has brought this on themselves by betraying their promise to respect Hong Kong's autonomy. And by handpicking candidates in 2017, they're betraying that. If I was Xi Jinping right now, I would make a legislative order to his counterpart in Hong Kong to say, okay, this is a serious situation, we're going to have to stick by our promises in order to contain the situation. And then if they make a solemn vow to stick by their promises, then they would, the onus would be on the students to pull back and say, okay, we'll hold you to that. Like I said, I haven't seen any major violence, but it's a very tense situation. Okay, what I'm going to do is maybe try and make updates on this, because it's a rapidly moving situation, and I think there's a real potential here for something to happen. Now, I have to say, there seems to be different groups. Joshua Wong is one of the leaders. What this guy is saying, the reporter, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, young blonde guy, what he's saying is that other protesters are now calling for them to pull back, so there seems to be different groupings here. Right, that's very significant. What he's just said is that the students have made it clear that they're not going to use force, as have the security forces. So that's good news. Nobody's getting hurt right now. Right, what he's just said is no one's getting hurt right now, but in the last demonstration there were dozens of people taken to hospital. So right now the situation looks tense, but there doesn't. I don't think there'll be a massacre. I don't think we'll see a repeat of 1989, but nevertheless, this is a big test for the CCP. And what I would say is, if they want to contain this situation, they brought it on by betraying the promises. If they want to contain the situation, then they should absolutely guarantee that Hong Kongers will have universal suffrage by 2017, as they promised.